Stock market review for October 11th, 2023. Let's see what SPY and Friends brought us today. SPY ended the day, inside candle, doji, indecision in the market for the SPY, which means if the SPY cannot decide, we surely cannot decide. But if we zoom in, we can clearly see it started with a downtrend. Then in the last 3 candles of the day on the hourly, bulls woke up and tried to bring price inside this gap once again. Let's see where SPY will head tomorrow. Tomorrow, CPI numbers comes out. Manage your risk accordingly. The QQQ continuing its way towards this purple trend line. 4 times in the past, this trend line held as a very tough resistance. Let's see, in the 5th time, will the Q will break up above towards the 381. Dow Jones, another day, another doji, 50% retracement from this downtrend at the 338 area. 2 consecutive dojis, indecision on the Dow. The Dow is waiting for CPI numbers. Good reaction for the CPI numbers, and we will see this gap at the 344. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe during Friday until the end of this week. This gap might get filled, and then we will retest this yellow trend line once again as resistance. Look left, this yellow trend line was a very, and still a very tough resistance for bulls of the Dow since the peak of July. IWM, doji, above the 618 Fibonacci retracement. We can clearly see IWM holding nicely above the 175 area. Good reaction for the CPI report, and we shall see this gap at the 180 will get filled, and retesting this red trend line once again as resistance. This trend line holds the lower highs since the peak of August, and since then each and every time IWM bulls tried, they failed. Let's see where IWM will take us after the CPI report. Bitcoin, this scenario slowly getting validated. Broke this very short uptrend channel, uptrend line. Broke to the downside. Now 26,200 needs to hold as the next support. Below it, we are heading towards the 24,800. But if you look closely, first zoom out, we have this kind of pattern, but never trust patterns. Patterns are not reliable. What we need to do is follow price, look left where price came from, and with high probability and with the help of Fibonacci levels, trend lines, we can assume with high probability where price might be heading next. But if you insist to follow patterns, also on the lower time frame, you can see another potential head and shoulders. So head and shoulders on the higher time frame, on a monthly time frame, head and shoulders on a weekly time frame. And if you're a pattern trader, you know that head and shoulders is not a bullish pattern. Ethereum holding above the 1540, breaking below it, and we will retest this purple trend line together with the 1460. KRE, downtrend until proven otherwise, and as you can see, trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. 2 consecutive days, bulls are trying and getting rejected by this trend line. So until proven otherwise, KRE is in a downtrend, and when I say until proven otherwise, I mean I want to see at least 1 or even 2 weeks closing above this purple trend line. Why 1 or 1.5 weeks if you want? Because this is a downtrend that began end of July. So it's a monthly downtrend. So 1 candle or even 2 daily candles will not change the overall sentiment. So this is why I say wait until you see at least 5, 6, 7 days closing above this trend line, and then you will see bulls will take control once again. crude oil back inside this red zone. This red zone is very tough, was a very tough resistance, now acting as support. It's like a big magnet for price of crude oil. This gap is filled. Now, let's see, can oil break once again above towards the 88? Above it, we are heading towards the 90 and then back to the 95, breaking below this red zone, and we will see 77 once again. SOXX, nice bounce from end of September, from the 457, now at the 490, but as you look left, zoom out, it's still in a downtrend. So if you feel FOMO, if you feel you missed some big move, you didn't, because overall it's still in a bearish land until we will see a weekly close above this upper trend line together with above the 490 area. No FOMO, because once bulls will reach this yellow trend line together with the 492, it will find a very tough resistance. This yellow trend line, resistance for price of the SOXX since beginning of August. And as you can see, this yellow trend line holding the lower lows. Lower highs, lower lows is the definition of a downtrend. Natural gas, once again, great example of why trend lines are the true support, resistance, and our map for future price action. Resistance, 4 consecutive days. If bulls will give up, and they will give up eventually, if they will not succeed breaking above it, at least 1-2 days above this red trend line, bulls will give up, and then back to the 320 area, below 320, 3 will become the next major support, breaking below the 3, and we shall see this gap to the downside getting filled one way or another. Eventually this gap will get filled. Why? Because natural gas futures does not have any open gaps. Apple, nice, another nice bullish day. Now this area of the open gap area, the 180.50, 181.50, all this area together with this yellow trend line will become a very tough resistance. CPI report tomorrow, good reaction, and we will see this gap getting filled. We will see this yellow trend line breaking to the upside, and then we can take Fibonacci, swing low, swing high to the upside, and Fibonacci will give us what are the next resistance for price action to the future. Check the links in the description below. We have the Fibonacci Academy playlist, 25 videos on how to become a better trader each and every day. Technical side, psychology behind trading. Check it out. Each day, watch one video. Each video, no more than 15 minutes length. Take your financial freedom in your own hands. And then, if you want, you're more than welcome to join one of our various programs. All the links in the description below. Nvidia continuing to the upside. 462 was the 618 Fibonacci retracement. Broke, close above it. Now 478 is the next resistance. 462 now needs to hold. Otherwise, back to the 451. We can now clean the chart. And we have this, in my opinion, too steep of an uptrend bounce, some kind of a pullback, some kind of a retracement towards the 451, even towards the 440 will be very healthy. The steeper the trend, the more likely it will get broken. Bulls of Amazon looks like they are waking up validating this multi-bottom, double bottom scenario as we talked about a few days back. Now a good reaction for the CPI numbers, and we can say this gap will get filled, and 131 and 129 will become a very important area of support. As you can see, it was support over here. So and over here, look at this price action between these two areas, between the 129 and the 131. So by natural things of price action, this area between the 129 and the 131 will become a very important area of support. Let's see how Amazon and the general market will react to CPI numbers. All we need to do is sit and wait and manage our risk accordingly. Meta, another perfect example of why I always say trend lines are the true support and resistance for price action, and they are also our GPS, our roadmap for future price action. Check out this yellow trend line. Since August, Meta highs every time getting rejected, but it's a good thing on the one side because it helps us to identify that Meta is in a higher high situation, which means we are in an uptrend on Meta. Meta, believe it or not far from all-time highs, from 387 to 327, not so far. But as long as Meta's price is hanging below or even hanging above this yellow trend line, you know that the way is up. Google, another very bullish day on Google, 1.8% to the upside, finally broke and managed to close above the 138 area. Now this 138 area will become a very important area of support. Let's see continuation towards this white trend line. And Google, the same story as Meta, as long as price is hanging above or even below this yellow trend line, this white trend line, sorry, Google is going up. Microsoft, let's clean the chart. Let's clean the chart over here. What do we see? We see lower lows, lower highs. So until proven otherwise, Microsoft, as opposed to Google and Meta, is in a downtrend. A weekly close above 337, 338 area. And then we can say we have a double bottom scenario also on Microsoft. So weekly close, and then with high probability next week 344 and even 354 and then 367. Once again, CPI reports can shuffle all the cards. AMD, another inside day trend line. You remember the trend line from Meta, the trend line from Google? Once again, same trend line. Support, support, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, broke to the downside, now got back. And as long as AMD is hanging below or even above this white trend line, the way is up. 107, we have talked about this 107 in the past few weeks or so. We have talked about that we want to see a few candles above this 107, even a weekly close above this 107, and then we can start taking our long position on AMD with 107 as our risk management. Also, we can use ATR. If you don't know how to use ATR to manage your stop loss, please check the Fibonacci Academy playlist. We have a special video only about ATR and how to use it. Tesla, Doji, inside candle, hanging above this purple trend line, but hanging below this downtrend red line. Let's see where Tesla will end up this week. A weekly close above this red trend line, and with high probability next week we are going towards the 280, and maybe before end of October we will see this gap at the 290 getting filled, but one at a time. Follow price, use levels and trend lines as your guide for future price action. Shopify 55.77, very tough resistance, not surprising. Resistance over here, and all this area, resistance over here. So let's see, can we close this week above the 55.77 and then going towards this gap over here and this gap over here. Netflix, 2% to the downside. Bulls gave up on the 386. As for now, once again, CPI numbers can shuffle all the cards in the market, but for now, Bulls gave up on the 386, breaking below this very important trend line that held the lower lows. Breaking below it means bears are getting more and more stronger towards the 341 gap. All we need to do, always look left, where price came from. This is why we use trend lines. Where price might be heading next. This is why we use trend lines. AMD, Meta, Google, and of course, Fibonacci. That gives us the most accurate support and resistance for price action. For more educational resources, you are more than welcome to check all the links in the description below.